Hello and welcome to the Paris Fintech Forum Communities Programme. I'm Elliot Gotkin, I'm a journalist and with Laurent Nisri, co-host of this exclusive video interview series produced with the support of Solaris Bank, Rise and BPI France. Now, small and medium-sized enterprises, or SMEs, are the backbone of many economies. And with banks not always willing or able to finance them, alternative lenders have stepped into the breach. One of the biggest and fastest growing is Paris-based October. Its founder and CEO is Olivier Goy, who joins me now. Great to see you again, Olivier.
Great to see you, Elliot. Pleased to be there.
So can you perhaps just start by telling us about October and how it's different and better, I guess, than other SME lenders like Market Finance, iWalker, Liberis, and the rest?
First, I don't know if we are better than the rest of the crowd, but we are almost born all at the same time, meaning in 2014, because thanks to a new law back 6 years ago, we were able to lend money in spite of the banking monopoly. You have to remember in France that in France 6 years ago, it was, for example, strictly forbidden to lend money to SMEs, if not a bank. So now that's a reality for most of us, being able to lend money to SMEs, globally speaking, in Europe. And as you may know, October is not only operating in France, but since the beginning, almost the beginning, is lending also in Spain, in Italy, in the Netherlands, as well as more recently in Germany. So we define ourselves as a real pan-European player, at least continental Europe player.
Okay, and the past year has been, as we've seen, especially tough on SMEs. How did October help them, and how did they help October in terms of revenues and growth?
Yeah, that was a crazy year. During the first part of 2020, to be honest, I believe we were dead, meaning that I had a very gloomy view on our industry, saying, okay, SMEs won't pay back their loan first, and then it will be impossible for us to raise new money from new lenders or even existing lenders. But it was not taking into account the fact that different states have put a lot of money in the market first and have helped a lot SMEs to cope with the crisis. So on the contrary of my initial thinking, it has been an amazing year for all of us, meaning that starting in June last year, we have been able to distribute state guaranteed loans almost in everywhere, meaning at least in France, in Italy, in the Netherlands. So it has been a very positive, let's say, step for us, helping us to really support the European economy. First thing. The second thing, very interesting thing for us too, is that it showed the world that technology was key as soon as you want to distribute loans in a very efficient way. So meaning that our toolbox, our October toolbox, was interesting not only for us as lenders, but also for traditional players like banks willing to lend money more efficiently. So that's why we have started to collaborate with them, helping them thanks to what we call October Connect, meaning our own technology sold to third parties in order to improve their own efficiency when it's about lending money.
Right, and I think now you're the biggest SME lending platform in the EU. How closely are your fortunes tied to the post-pandemic recovery there, which, as we've seen, perhaps because of the slower rollout of vaccines, isn't as zippy as, for example, what we've seen in the United States?
Yeah, the fact that the current situation in continental Europe varies a lot from one country to the other. Meaning that before the crisis, the 5 countries in which we operate were very similar, meaning very few differences between Spain, France, Italy, or Germany. But the truth is that now you have huge differences between these 5 countries, at least for us as alternative lenders. I mentioned earlier that we were very happy, for example, to distribute state guaranteed loans in the Netherlands, in Italy, or in France, but we are very sad to not being able to do it in Germany or in Spain. So meaning that, for example, for Spain, it's currently a very difficult market because Spain had not been reacting properly to the crisis. Their economic reaction is very low compared to Germany or France, for example, and they are not being able to leverage all means at their disposal, especially fintech, to cope with the
Okay.
crisis.
And just briefly, Olivier, you raised $300 million in September 2020, I think, but this was mainly to help you.
Yeah, something like this, 260 million
Right.
euros, but yeah, $300 million
I did the
exactly.
conversion, but this was mainly to help you, provide more loans. It wasn't an equity fundraising. Should we expect an equity
Definitely, yeah.
fundraising soon?
The best way to avoid it is to generate revenues. So we are currently focusing a lot on generating revenues. And fortunately for us, the start of 21 has been amazingly good, meaning that we have lent money to more SMEs during the first 4 months of 21 than during the first month of 19, 20, and even 18 additions. So that's a huge departure for us in 21. And on top of that, we have more than interesting discussion with lots of banks for selling our technology with October Connect. So to answer honestly at your question, yes, we may consider an equity round later on. It's not our current plan, but why not?
Okay. And of course, the past 12 months have been tough on so many people, but for you, they've been very tough in a very personal way after you were diagnosed with ALS. What went through your mind when you received the news?
And maybe I should explain what ALS is because it's amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. For French guys, it will be known as maladie de Charcot, and for English or US guys, as a sorry, I forget the name of the basketball player. It's maybe we have Lou Gehrig's. Yeah, thank you, Lou Gehrig's disease. I was looking for his name. So indeed, it was a huge shock for me when I learned it in December last year. But I've decided to stay very positive because I don't want to be punished twice. If I'm not fighting, if I'm not enjoying my daily life, I will be punished twice. So that's definitely not my mindset. My mindset, sorry. And fortunately for me, this disease is terrible, but at least it doesn't touch my intellectual capacity, meaning that I will still be able to discuss with you, maybe not so clearly than we are currently doing, or I hope so at least. But as long as I can, I will contribute to our journey. And fortunately for me too, we have an amazing team at October, starting with my own partner and CEO, Patrick Denonville. So I'm not really worried for the future of October. I'm more worried for my own future. But once again, I prefer to stay focused on my daily life, on my let's say day-to-day life. So I enjoy the day more than ever.
Right. Well, we certainly hope that things improve and that new treatments come through to help you deal with this. You founded October in September 2014, so quite some time ago now.
In October.
In October, of course. What? Why did I think that it was September? That was going to be my other question. Why is it called October?
But you know what? I have to admit that you're right. It was in September. But for the storytelling part of the business, I have to say
Right, yeah,
October
we'll
now.
call it October. We'll deal with that. So now we know why it's called October. But before that, you were in the investment world. I'm just wondering how you decided to kind of strike out on your own. Was there something that particularly inspired you, or just an opportunity that you just couldn't refuse?
Hmm. Yeah, the fact is that I've always been an entrepreneur. I started when I was 26 with my own private equity firm. And after 14 years, when I turned 40, it was like my midlife crisis. I had the willingness to prove myself. I was able to start again something from scratch. So that's a huge challenge to start from scratch. And there's nothing more exciting than that. So that's why we gathered a team with Patrick, amazing CEOs in the 4 countries in which we operate outside of France, plus a tech team, a product team. And yeah, we started once again in a new industry, trying to set up something completely new without any legacy. That's very exciting. even if very challenging too.
Right. I guess if it wasn't challenging, then perhaps it would be less exciting. But look, Olivier,
Yeah.
don't go away right now because I just need to take a very quick break, after which we're going to continue our conversation with October founder and CEO, Olivier Goy. Welcome back. And don't forget, if you're not already a full member of our community, everything you need to join can be found at www.parisfintechforum.com. And now, Olivier, I've got a few more questions for you. So let's talk a little bit more in general about the kind of fintech or alternative lending space out there. Fintechs like October, as we discussed, stepped into the breach, kind of vacated by the banks. Any sign that the banks are fighting back, or are they more likely to be partners or acquirers than competitors?
Yeah, indeed, we are more competing with banks than with other alternative lenders. When you mention our peers, definitely the big players in this game are banks and are still banks. If you give a quick look at numbers, amount lent all over Europe, for sure, banks are right first. But I think that today banks are also understanding, at least for segments, that they can smartly partner with fintech players like us in order to improve their own efficiency because they know they have a margin issue. As you know, rates are still very low and risks are rising. So they have to leverage technology definitely to improve their own system. And they also know that they are really lagging behind in terms of technology. So I think we could have a smart cooperation with bank, not competing, of course, competing directly with them when we are lenders, but also collaborating with them when it's about technology. And once again, in a very specific industry, it's not one player taking the wool pie. It's really a highly fragmented market. You can, I guess, name a single bank dominating the market, and that's the same thing for alternative lenders.
Right.
It's a really well fragmented market.
Yes, and given how fragmented it is and given how many alternative lenders there are now, should we expect some kind of consolidation happening at some point? And if we're not at that point just yet, when do you see that point coming along?
We are at that point to some extent, but currently, my view is that it's not so easy to buy other players. We have all our variant specificities, and it's not that easy to acquire a competitor. So, merging two very different technologies is not very easy, and buying a browse base or another base, I don't know if it worth the game to spend dozens of dollars, millions of dollars, or thousands. So I think the best option is maybe to build by yourself what you want to get.
Okay. If I'm correct, I saw you've lent more than €500 million to date. I think one of the other alternative lenders, Market Finance, has lent the equivalent of more than €4 billion. These are still pretty small numbers in the grand scheme of things. How big is the total addressable market out there? And if you and others grow as fast as you're hoping, at what point does your size become a concern for regulators in the same way that banks are a concern for regulators in the sense of being, too big to fail effectively?
Yeah, the fact is that regulators are not concerned by your size because, when you go to a bank, you deposit money on the bank account and you expect to withdraw this money at any time. Of course, banks will transform your own money into loans. So that's why regulators have to give a very close look to what they are doing, making sure they're not doing mistakes, otherwise it may endanger your own, let's say, money as a saver. On the contrary of us, when we have lenders, insurance lenders or retail lenders, when they land on October, they know precisely that taking a risk. So even if we lend 10 billion euro per year, we will never be a danger for an economy because all our lenders are expecting losses. So they know precisely where they come from.
Right. And can you give us a sense of the kind of bad loan rate or the kind of percentage of loans that don't get repaid on your platform?
Yeah, maybe the best way to express it is to mention that after default and after any fees, we're able to deliver a rate, a near IRR, sorry, between 3 and 4% to lenders. So that's the game. As a counterpart of the risk they are taking, they will receive 3 to 4% per year on their money. So that's in today's environment enough to attract them. Let's see how things evolve, of course.
Yeah, let's see if interest rates begin to rise, and then people might go back to parking their money with the banks or slightly even less risky places.
And please don't ask me my pronostic on it. I have no.
Okay. Well, I won't ask you that, but I'm afraid I will have to say that we are out of time. But really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us. Olivier Goy, founder and CEO of October. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks a lot.
And I'm going to be back again next week with another big name from the world of finance and technology. We hope you'll join us again then. In the meantime, you can keep up to date with all the exclusive interviews and content from the Paris FinTech Forum Communities Program via www.parisfintechforum.com. Hope to see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.